you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There are ladies that makes it official. Welcome to the big show. As always, for 2,400 episodes and 16 years, we bring in the Chris Voss Show with all these amazing folks with their stories, their journeys, their lessons of life, the different things that they share with you to help improve the quality of your life. As always, help improve the quality of other people in your life as well. If you would, please go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the TikTokity. There you go. As always, we have amazing authors on the show. Today we have another one amongst us. He's the author of the newest book that came out August 5th, 2023, called ODAT, Orbital Drop Armor Team, by Lieutenant Alexander Tambascia. And we're going to get into some of the details of his experience and his knowledge on the show and his books and why some of them might be an autobiography. Welcome to the show, Lieutenant Alexander. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. It's Lieutenant Colonel, just so you know.
Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, that's
yes.
right. Let's see. Lieutenant LTCR. Okay, I'm on the book cover.
Yeah, retired. That's my retired marker.
So
Lieutenant Colonel retired.
Lots of markers. So give us your .coms or any place you want people to find you on the interwebs to get to know you better.
Well, I have a profile on Amazon.com. Of course, I have a fan group on Facebook, a very active fan group. It's called Imperial Command. For a brand new author like myself, I already have close to 300 interactive people that follow me. I give all my book secrets, sneak previews, early release information, and discount codes to my fans via that page. So to learn more about my book series, ODAT, and future books and things like that, I definitely recommend that people should go to Facebook and check out Imperial Command. I'm working with some of my fan base to try to expand Imperial Command to like Instagram and X, but it's not as easy as it seems.
That's true. There's some platforms you just do better on. Like I've had that where there's certain things that do better on certain platforms and other platforms you can't get any traction on. It's kind of wild how that works. So give us a 30,000 overview. What's in the ODAT book?
Well, ODAT is a science fiction that's based on my personal war history. It was written in the same spirit Aldous Huxley did Brave New World. So it's an autobiography set to a futuristic backdrop. For those who aren't familiar with the reference, Aldous Huxley Brave New World was about his personal struggle with drug addiction. Most people don't really know that. So a very famous sci-fi author I met really encouraged me to write, and when I try to push back saying I'm not a writer, I'm not a creator, I'm a guy who sits in a giant 80-ton beast and shoot big guns, he dropped that reference on me, and I'm kind of like couldn't argue with him, so I had to write the ODAT series.
There you go. So and when did you start the series? I guess this book was published in 2023, is that correct?
I started it in 2022. Okay. The book series first started out as my way to contribute to the veteran community, to help, because I talk about things we have to deal with as individual soldiers and the dark side that comes with it and how to cope with it. So it started out with that, and I kept with that theme across the book series, where it's definitely not, I don't go into the Hollywood flashbang type of it. It's more of, there's action, but I also talk about the aftermath of what people go through after a battle.
Hmm. There you go. So you basically framed an autobiography for you as as a sci-fi novel. That's that correct?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. And so now there's two books in the series that are out now. There's a 1 and 2 that people can order. How does that series work, and is there more coming?
Well, I started out as doing this as a trilogy. It starts, book 1 covers my experience with K4S4.
Okay.
Book 2 is my Afghanistan experience, and book 3 is my Iraq experience.
Okay. Now, what
So
did you just to get a definition on that? What is the KS4? I think you said.
K4S4, that was Serbia and Herzegovina, that whole area when we had those conflicts with the
Okay.
Serbs and
I certainly
Albania.
remember that the Balkan Wars, I think is what they were called, or there's probably a number of different references to them. But that was a real shit show in the 90s, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
was. And so the books basically book 1 just basically covers my experience going from graduating armor school to going into combat. And I cover a lot of the realist stuff of we just don't get on an airplane and fly over. I cover a lot of the administrative nightmares we have to go through,
Oh yeah.
to give it some realism, that all the stuff you'll never see in a movie.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how everything magically happens in a movie, right? You don't see all the moving parts. And certainly when our military moves, there's a lot of moving parts and planning and, logistics to it. Right?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is, for every one soldier, regardless of their MOS, me being armor, it's even more, but
Now, what is an
average,
MOS?
Military occupation specialty,
There you go.
regardless of the MOS, there's at least 1,000 people in the background helping to get
Wow.
that soldier downrange. I
great?
mean, dealing with
Yeah.
mission planners, logistics, supply. There's, it just isn't as simple as I get my go bag and I hop on an airplane.
And suddenly you defeat the warlord enemy of the world, and everything's good at the end, and then you leave with the chick at the Hollywood end of the movie, right?
Yeah, I've been through 4 deployments. I never ended up with the chick at the end, so I don't know. It must be for only the Marine Corps that gets that.
Somebody on maybe some of those 100 people in the background need to arrange a date or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean you're right. It's interesting how Hollywood can present that whole thing, and I guess if you only got an hour and a half or 2 hours of film screen, it's hard to show all that stuff. But so tell us about the characters in your book. I guess they're kind of based on you, but who's the main protagonist, and some of the people in the book that use as characters?
Okay. So I actually cover this in I have a note to the readers explaining this. The book is based on everything through my eyes.
Mhm.
And so I'm actually writing as myself. So, the main character has my name.
Okay.
And a lot of the names of the people I mention in the book, either with their straight real name, or I change it a little bit because they wanted to be an alien character. So I alienified their name, are all actual people I've met and known in my career. So every character in my book is based on someone I met in real life.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So, it's basically, like I tell people, is all the major events are based upon real instances in my life. I just put with a sci-fi background, and those who served in these battles, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And those who've never served, they'll just be entertained with the action.
There you go. Well, people love military novels and war stories and things like that. The premise of the book is orbital drop armor team. What is this orbital drop? How does that work in the sci-fi nature?
Well, I've been a big sci-fi geek, and anyone who's been a tanker, been armor, they all know about David Drake's hammer slammers.
Mm.
And I basically took his concept of, in his book, tanks drop, from orbit down to the planet side. But, it was more based on a lot of what I call, fantasy sci-fi, science that is so far advanced, we will be dead and buried, and our great grandkids will probably be grandparents themselves before that technology comes. So I got out my physics book, my slide rule, and I said, okay, if we were going to drop a tank from orbit, how would it be done? And I basically gave a very scientific, very physics-based method of how tanks are basically dropped from orbit onto planets, and they create the beachhead.
Wow.
So it's everything's very plausible. Pretty much in my book, the science fiction technology is, if money was no option, we actually, we had no money was an option, this would be technology we would have by 2030.
This sounds like fun.
That's basically how I did it. Some true hardcore sci-fi fans have written me. They said they feel that that's not science fiction. They wanted to see, science, but I wanted my book to be something people can relate to. I want something to feel that they can say, yeah, I can see that in 5 years. And so I wanted it to be more human, more realistic than, sci-fi fantasy, with people, people who fly spaceship that yet uses some magic to choke people. So I didn't want to go that way.
There you go. What demographic seems to be your largest readers group? It sounds like you built a good Facebook support team for the book, which a lot of authors should do.
Yeah. 90% of my fan base is military, of veterans or active duty. A good 5% is government civilians who work, people who work in government. And that's not only in America, that's across the world. So I have like Australian fans, British fans, German fans. So that big chunk is that breaks. And the rest of my fan base is just pure science fiction people who never served. They just like science fiction and they like military sci-fi. And that's the rest. So a very large demographic is military.
There you go. What do you think? What do you think attracts people to the details? Is it because you're writing, a lot of military experience that was real that you had? It has a realism to it, or what?
I think it's because I'm very real military. It's like even in the movies, you'll see things like, a chief would never talk to an officer like that, or a junior officer would never talk to a superior like that, and things like that. So when they read my book, it's very regimental. It's very, what it is in real life, how enlisted and officers interact, how things are done. And it seems that many people appreciated that part of it, and and also the details of how to go through things. I had one person write me, said that in my life when I did my first knife kill, and I was very detailed in how I did it. And he said, wrote me saying that was the most realistic description he's read in his life, because he says he's done a lot of those type of killings, and he says, no one has been that accurate. And in a morbid kind of way, I kind of appreciate that comment, saying, I did a great job. At the same point, I'm going, I just don't want to be known for that.
There you go. So let's see. What's the other question I have for you? There's something about notes that were sent to me from your PR agent about wearing a Stetson and hat in public. A Stetson hat in public? Well, is that part of the book story?
Well, I'm a cav officer, and one of the signature things is our Stetson. Most famously, Robert Duvall.
I was going to say, yeah.
That's air cav. So those are all the people who fly in the choppers, but there is actually a ground cav called the armor cav. We are cavalry officers who basically ride tanks, and a few of us are in Humvees and M2s, but we don't talk about them that much. So we go through hell to earn these. We earn our sabers, we earn our spurs. So when I got retired medically from the military, this is the one thing I wear because it sets me apart. It's it's something that is earned, not given. And the Green Berets say the same thing about their beret. jump. People say things about the jump wings. You got to earn it, and that's why I wear it. And my book is Cav focused, so I also wear it in as part of me and my book series. So it's kind of a dual function. It's the show that I served. And it's really nice when I'm like shopping. I'm in the supermall, I'm wearing my Stetson. I meet a fellow Cav guy, and it's like, you instantly bond. It's just that instant bonding mode. When you meet other Cav guys, I'll be at Market Basket. I live in the Northeast here. We have Market Baskets, and I'll hear across the place someone screaming Gary Owen, and I'm like, he's a Cav guy.
Yeah. There you go. So now, does your character in the book wear the Stetson?
Everyone all members of ODAT wear Stetsons.
Okay.
And I actually talk about the importance of the Stetson in the book, and why if you do meet somebody, you don't touch their Stetson, and why. Very, you can get a bar fight very quickly if you do that.
That's my rule on all dates: never touch the Stetson.
Yeah, never touch. We're very protective of that, but I talk about it. We all wear them, and it's more in the book. It's more of a, we wear it in non-combat role. It's more of our, Class A, Class B uniform, and because in our combat uniform, I have, we're wearing combat helmets. So,
what a classic scene with Robert Duvall from
Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, my brain just completely farted. Apocalypse Now. I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
It smells like victory.
I just love the narrative that goes over that, where it's the main actor, and he's like, this was the guy who was going to go home untouched, and never, nothing was going to ever happen. This guy, he could just stand there as bombs are dropping around him. And it was just it was an interesting thing. And the funny thing about Apocalypse Now is a lot of the stories that are in the movie are, they were going, I think they were filming in the Philippines, Apocalypse Now. And so they were getting a lot of the Vietnam vets that were coming out of Vietnam to round back to the States. And they were hearing the stories of them. And so a lot of those stories that are, real from Vietnam vets' experience, they were putting in the book, and, stuff like that was just crazy, man. But, Charlie can't surf.
That reference is in one of my books. So.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, I have that reference.
Little homage to the old Robert Duvall. There you go. It's such a great movie too, and it was a dark war. So there you go. I think we have somebody else coming on soon from the Vietnam War, and we had somebody this week. There's still people alive for it. So there you go. Have you ever considered your book as a big screen TV series or anime adaptations?
Actually, yes. Me personally, I'm leaning towards anime, because I'm the Gen X generation. I grew up in the golden age of anime from 1977 to 1991, the sweet age of all the great animes. So I always saw it being that way. A lot of my fans wanted to see it in the big screen. They want to see it in a movie. Many of my fans want it to be a series on Netflix or Hulu. So I have been talking to people. I have been engaging in those type of discussions, and and I'll be honest, it's not as easy as you just bring your book and drop it off to a producer and they make it. There's a lot involved, and not even going into the legal side, just trying to get, for all intents and purposes, to Hollywood or anybody who makes these type of productions, I'm a nobody. So it's very hard to go using agents and stuff to get that FaceTime to give them the 8-minute elevator speech about why they should consider your story. So, I'm in the process of doing that, and it is challenging. I'm actually having my agent trying to get me in front of Production IG. They're the anime people that done Ghost in the Shell, Appleseed. They've done the very famous Kaiju number 8, which everyone is very fond about. And many of my literary people I work with, my screenwriter who's actually doing the adaptation, said,
oh, really?
Yeah, anime will probably be a better route, because the amount of sci-fi SF effects, special effects they're going to have to do to make a live action just might break the budget, but it doesn't cost much for an anime. It's just, whether it's a lot of explosions, little explosions, it's still the same cost for the artist. So
Yeah, there you
yeah.
go. I mean, there's so much they do with CGI now, though. It's pretty crazy what they can do with CGI. It's wild. They just go in these big green screen room studios. If you ever watched it, and they're just like making shit, and yeah, it's pretty wild. All the stuff that goes into it. I find it just impressive as hell. But anime probably can give you that cool sort of anime look and rush. I mean, I remember growing up. Does Speed Racer count as anime, or is
Yep.
that just cartoon?
1977 Speed Racer.
There you go. When you see it's racing down the road, and the sort of animations that go on with to affect that can be kind of cool looking. So with the series, my next question for you is, do you have a preferred studio if a filmmaking studio could make it?
Definitely Production IG. I've met Mishimi Shiru many years ago at a convention.
Uh-huh.
I was always been impressed by his artwork, his books, his animes. So when
Okay.
he started Production IG, and they a large portion of their art, their product is based on his artwork. So by hands down, I want to be with Production IG and be part of that legacy of great animes they produced.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the most famous being Ghost in the Shell, followed closely by the Appleseed series, Kaiju number 8, and a lot of many others that they've done. So it would be an honor if they would adapt, make an adaptation of my story.
There you go. So let's see, what else do we have up here on deck? You say it's meant for the Gen X reader, and but you're seeing it sort of apply to all. Why do you think it targets Gen X and they identify with it so much?
A lot of the references in the book is from the Gen X. I make references to Buck Rogers,
Okay.
Star Blazers.
Yeah, you got
I
to
make
know those
references to
references.
Force 5, Guy King. In different ways, I have a lot of things. A lot of AC/DC references.
Okay.
So
The band AC/DC,
yep,
or
band,
okay,
yep,
okay,
and the heavy metal, both the music and the movie. There's a lot of iconic things that people who grew up in the they were growing up in the 80s and early 90s, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Where the newer generation, they'll probably have to Google half the stuff I'm talking about.
There you go. You got to Google it. So tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, your background. Obviously, you spent some time in the military, but tell us about some of your experience of life, and then also, when did you start writing, or knowing you kind of had a knack for it?
Okay. I entered the military at 17 and a half. I spent
Mm-hmm.
my whole adult life in uniform. 28 years. I've done 6 years enlisted, made staff sergeant. I went to officer candidate school, became an armor officer. As enlisted, I was a red leg, also known as a gun bunny. I worked in field artillery.
A gun bunny?
Yep, they're called gun bunnies.
Okay.
And I know if there's any red leg listening, they're probably laughing their ass off right now. Then I went into armor, and John Wayne had a little bit of effect on that, because when I was growing up, I saw a lot of the John Wayne movies of him, in the cavalry, Fort Apache, and
Yeah.
things like that. So
I grew up with John Wayne too. Yeah.
So I went Cav, and and I spent a lot of time there. I was deployed 4 times, S4, K4, Afghanistan, Iraq. Most, like, some of them have been back to back. Like, literally, I didn't even get to go home from Afghanistan. I went from Afghanistan to Iraq. It's just how it was. My wife has been very supportive, very helpful. I met her just after becoming an officer, and we had the perfect marriage. We never fought once for the first 5 years we were married. because I was deployed for those first 5 years. So we're the first couple to ever last that long without having an argument.
Good for you.
Yeah. When you're not around, it's, it kind of makes things easier. So she's been very supportive. We had a daughter back in 2010. She was murdered when I was on my third deployment, and that was painful. And but luckily, I was blessed with a second child. Her name is Alita. She was born 5 years later in 2015. So I get to enjoy things, my life, sharing my life with her. She loves my ODAT series. She keeps begging me, Daddy, when can I be a character in your book series? And I'm like, maybe when you're older. But she's very she's one of my biggest fans, and it kind of gives me that little daddy thing. I like it. My daughter loves my work. She even says to me, Daddy, I want to grow up to be a tanker. And of course that, I pull my chest out, it's like, yeah. How I got in the writing, it's really funny. When I got medically retired, the VA basically said, hey, you're terminal. We're giving you about 5 to 6 years, based on your exposures and, and other vets in your profile, So I met Jonathan Yanez, and I basically, told him, hey, I'm gonna, I find I'm terminal. I don't want to die, not having anyone ever remember who and what I was. Can I be a character in your book? So I'm remembered somewhere. And he agreed, and we got very close. We'd talk about things, and finally he started pushing me, write your own book. And I finally told him, I said, listen, I'm a sci-fi geek, but I can't write an autobiography. I'd fall asleep just trying to write it myself. And he looked at me and he says, you know who Aldous Huxley is? I said, yeah, Brave New World, old great thing, for betas, things like that. And he goes, well, that was a book about his drug addiction and his own autobiography he put in the sci-fi format. I go, oh, I didn't know that. Then he looked dead straight at me and goes, well, if Aldous Huxley can do it, why can't you? And hence the birth of ODAT.
There you go.
I started writing in 2022.
Okay.
Book 1 was released in 2023, followed by book 2 is in 2024, and book 3 to complete the trilogy is coming out this summer. I'm working with Hoyt Audio Productions from Florida. They're going to make the trilogy into an audiobook on Audible. They're very very good people, and I was kind of lucky because most audiobooks, with the exception of those that are dramatized, usually have one narrator, male or female. I actually I made a deal with them where I have both a male narrator for male characters and a female narrator for female characters. So it's adding a really good level of narration for a book that's not going to be dramatized. So they're really good. I'm planning, once I complete book 3, I'll be starting a whole new series based in the same universe. So the same ODAT universe. So if you read the first 3 books, you're going to know exactly what's in my universe, but it's going to come from a different perspective. It's going to be 100% fictional. But it's that I'm also with that series. I'm going to be working with the very famous anime artist, Steve Bennett. And with Steve Bennett, we're going to be, making a online comic in conjunction with the book series. And so we're going to basically have a dual media presence, and he's going to make visual a lot of the things in my book. I have a lot of people asking me, well, what do these aliens really look like? You describe them, but they're trying to picture them. So this will be a way to give this to my fans of what the various races look like. So I'm very honored to be doing this collab with with him. And I'm also going to be doing I was invited to do a collab with T.E. Butcher, who does the Panza series. We're going to be co-writing a whole new series together called Ice Troopers. So I'll be supporting him on that when I'm not writing my other book. So I'm a very brand new author, compared to Jeffrey Haskell, Jonathan Yanez, Richard Pathlow. These guys have been writing for years. So I'm definitely the youngster in the room. But I have to admit that when those famous people have read my book and they've told me they think it's really good content, and that meant more to me than being number one on Amazon or New York Times list. It's just having these famous people read my book and come to me and said, hey, for first time, you really did an amazing job. So I really
congratulations, man. You're a burgeoning author and you're working on book 3. Now, is it going to be the same sort of setup and universe in book 3 as you've used in book 1?
Different planet. It's going to be on
planet?
A desert planet, because it's going to be mainly focused on Iraq. So, there's some Dune references. Sorry, folks, but there's going to be some Dune references because I'm on a desert planet. And, it just, the Gen X in me, I just had to make those references. But, so it's going to be on that world, and it's going to have a different dynamic to it. It's going to be seeing things from a different perspective, because by the time I went to Iraq, I'm much higher ranked. So I'm more in the, I'll be talking about the mission planning phase of things and how we do the landing and how we do the actual assault, versus book 1, where I was more of the, being a platoon leader. I wasn't part of the mission plan. Like, the commander handed me the mission plan, I did it. It's a big difference between book 1 and book 3, how I change roles from being the executor to being the planner and executor. So, and there's a lot of dark humor in it. The dark humor is a theme through all 3 books, but some of my test readers really appreciate the very subtle humor. Some said it almost borders like that Monty Python line, because it's written at the right point in the right time in such the right type of context. It just is hilarious, they tell me. So
there you go.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't even realize I'm doing it.
Well, if you've got that gift where the characters come to you and everything, like a lot of people have that, they come to them and they're familiar with what's going on and all that stuff. I mean, that's great. I mean, not a lot of people. I don't have that. None of my characters talk to me. Of course, I write nonfiction. So, but I'd probably write fiction if I had. We've had so many people come on the show that they're just like, yeah, the characters come to me and talk to me, and I'm like, God, I wish I had that going on. So there you go. Who's the favorite character in the book that your readers tend to resonate most with?
This is kind of funny. There's a character called Gunny. She's a female gunny sergeant in the Marine Corps, and a lot of people love her. They flock to her. And then there's another character who takes second place. She's a anamorphic fox-based species. Not a furry. I want to say that right now, folks. She's not a furry, but she has a foxtail, fox ears, but everything else is human. She has a following, number 2. Okay. And then the third place is not my character, but my character's AI. Everyone loves my character's AI. And I ask people, where do I rate in, my actual character? And I'm like 5 or 6 in the list. It's and the one thing is what a lot of the fans have come to me. The reason they like the book is that even though the book is about me, I'm not the hero of the stories. I talk about all the screw ups I've done and survived. So it's most people think, oh, if I'm going to write myself a book, I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to be the John Wayne. Actually, I'm not. I give those who really did the work the credit, and I'm just, and I'm very honest about it. I'm here today because of dumb luck.
Well, I mean, some of us, I think we all are kind of in a way when it really comes down to it, right?
Right.
I mean, just surviving in life is kind of dumb luck. There's probably a million times where you might make the wrong turn or miss that car by just a few milliseconds, et cetera, et cetera. And, there's been a few things times in my life where things have been kind of weird. So there you go. Let's see. The next question I had for you was with the books. Is Are you going to branch out into other areas of sci-fi?
Yes. After I finish my branch off from this book, the next book series I have after ODAT, which I'm gonna call Imperial Privateer. After the Imperial Privateer series, I'm thinking about doing a dark, heavy metal urban fantasy type storyline. Trying, not. It basically is like in the same spirit of the series called Bastard.
Mhm.
Having a character like Dark Schneider and that type of world, I want to try to branch and explore that part of it. But I'm also in the pure military sci-fi. Imperial Privateer. I'm going to do another book called Old Man. Right now, this is just a temporary title. I call it the Old Man series, Old Man War series.
Mhm.
It's going to talk about a retired guy who goes to a planet to retire, just wants to be left alone, and everything keeps bringing him back to having to fix the problems. So that's going to be probably my third series I'm going to go on to. But Imperial Privateer, which is going to be the next one after ODAT, I think I've had a lot of fans embracing that, and I'll be frank, I don't think my fan base will allow me just to stop at book 3 on that series.
Uh-oh.
They're going to probably want books 4 and 5, just from the feedback my fan base has been giving me.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go. I mean, that sounds like a great thing you're building there, and then there'll be more people that want to take and do it and all that good stuff. So there you go. Now are you a full-time writer now? And how does your working and writing affect your family life?
I'm not a full-time writer. I'm a part-time writer. I take one dedicated day of the week to writing, usually it's a Sunday. But throughout the week, as my brain's constantly thinking about things, if I think of something, I write it down. So when I go to write, I have it there. I do work as a civil servant for the Department of Defense. I'm a GS-15. I work in engineering, and so I do that, for the taxpayer, Monday through Friday. So my
Mm.
weekends, I try to dedicate Saturdays with my daughter, and then Sundays I'm writing content, and I'm hoping that when I do get old enough for the quote unquote retirement from civil service, that I'll be a full-time writer then and be able to crank out books faster than one a year, because that seems to be my pace, one book a year.
Oh, there
I
you go.
want to try to speed up to 2 books a year if possible, like many of the full-time authors. But my wife is very supportive of my writing. Pretty much, she's become my de facto business manager now, so she handles all solicitations, everything. My daughter is my number one fan. She loves my book. She loves the artwork of the books. So it's challenging, but in the same way, I just, maybe I'm just, because I'm a dad of a 9-year-old. I just love to see the twinkle of my daughter's eye when she sees me autographing books
Oh,
and
there you go.
doing things, and she gives, she pumps her chest out like, that's my dad.
There you go. Well, that is wonderful, man. That is wonderful.
Yeah,
And it's hard to write books. People don't realize it's a challenge to finish just even one book. So you're doing
actually,
good.
I really thought it was writing was the hard part. I found out the hard way. Writing is the easy part. It's getting it published is the hard part. It's
There
the
you go.
much harder
Yeah,
part.
that's definitely. But you're doing it smart. You're building an audience. You got your own Facebook group. I learned that from a lot of authors. You always want to build out your group. You want to build out your thing so that people can know more about what you're doing, and you can have that support for your advanced copies. What do they call them? ACRs. Your
Yeah.
advanced copy delivery, and then that way you can get those great you can get those great whatchamacallits. So
Reviews.
there you go. There you go. Anything more we need to talk about before we go?
Well, yeah. The one thing I just want to shout out, one of the things that I do, I mean, I'm not per se very active in the community, but I am a very strong supporter, is the working canine community. I actually have my partner from my military life is a working canine. She was in Fallujah, and I try to donate a portion of my royalties that come back to me. I do donate to working canines, so they can get a home when they're retired, so they're not put down.
Yeah.
So I really, so tell everyone who's watching, if you're interested in getting a pet, please consider the working canines. They are loyal. They're love. You kind of think, well, if a former police dog gets scared, they're not scary. I mean, my dog is an army canine, and she loves my daughter. So, so when you get my books, I do make an effort to contribute a good sum of money to the Working Canine Fund, every year. So, please, if you don't want to support me, at least support my working canines.
There you go. Please support a veteran's work. That's very important as well. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Give us any .coms or any places you want people to check you out and follow up with you on future projects.
Well, first, thank you for inviting me. It was such an honor to be on your show. I know
it was an honor to have you, sir.
Best place, folks, if you really want to get in touch with me and know my community and know about my work, is my Facebook group, Imperial Command. It's a very unique page group. You'll see a tank, and it says in big silver letters, Imperial Command. Join it. We have a wonderful community of people, and I have fans that actually take on my universe roles as my admins. One of my admins, he wants to be called Drop Master because he associated with a character in my books who's a drop master. So definitely that. Amazon, I do have an author profile on Amazon, so you can find me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. If you type in my name -author at the end, you will find my LinkedIn page. And I do respond to fans. So every fan who reaches out to me, I do respond back to them, whether they have good things to say or bad things to say. I mean, I appreciate all comments, and, I respectfully and respond to everyone. Sometimes if it's bad comments, it'll be simple as thank you for taking the time to at least read my book. And, because I kind of look at it, people ask me, how do I take bad reviews? And it's sort of like, I think of the Pirates of the Caribbean when, Johnny Depp, the British author, goes to Johnny Depp's character and says, you're the worst author I've ever heard of. And I'm there go, yes, but at least you've heard of me.
Don't.
So that's how I kind of look at it. Yeah. So
if I had a friend that somebody did that to him once, and he was fairly famous, and he was like, he was like knocking my friend down, and my friend's, like I said, fairly famous. And he goes, and a friend of his that was also famous, he said, who's this dude? I mean, I know who you are, you're famous, but who's this troll that's sitting on you? So it was funny how that worked out for him. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way I can, that's the best way I deal with bad reviews, because, at least I know they had to read my book to make the bad review. So,
and what's funny is some of those people don't read your book. Like some of them, they'll just spread hate. Like they just, I don't know, they hate the premise of the book. I mean, I've talked to a lot of authors, and it's kind of funny. Some of the people that write the nastiest reviews, they read like the first chapter, quit or something.
Yeah,
they don't like the premise. They're just slinging shit like monkeys from the thing.
Yes, I had one of those in my life, and it was really, really shocking bad review. In fact, I had to deal with Amazon to get it removed because he clearly didn't read my book. But he wrote about how my book is homophobic, and it's a book for white supremacy. It's a manic article, all this stuff. And the fact is, I don't even talk about, sexual orientations in my book. It's not there. I don't talk about race because from my eyes, everybody wears green. I don't care if you're yellow, red, purple, or a single horn purple people eater. You're in a uniform. We all wear green. We all fight together. And I guess that kind of triggered them that I weren't talking about those things. But so they came off with this really bad 1-star review saying all this nasty stuff. And, I knew
there's some crazy people out there, man.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, I wanted to write, if it's in Amazon, if you could, talk about it, like, did you actually read my book? Because it's like, I didn't know.
I wish they could make you ask that on Amazon. Like you could follow up, like on like Yelp or other places that are review sites. If you're the hosting body, you can reply to the review and say, hey, I'm sorry you didn't like what happened, but we're willing to fix it for you, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. That would be
Yeah.
nice because it
would be.
It's kind of crazy. So thank you very much for coming on the show. This has been very exciting and interesting, and what a great mission you're on to share this stuff, and imagine it helps veterans as well. And we're always supportive of our veterans and everything that happens. So thank you very much for coming on the show, Alexander.
Thank you very much, Chris. This was a wonderful time, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend my Friday night than sharing it with all your fans.
And you too, as well. Thank you for your service. So, folks, pick up the book wherever fine books are sold. It is entitled ODAT, Orbital Drop Armor Team, out August 5th, 2023. Pick up the second book that's out and watch for the third. So there you go. Thanks so much for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTok, and else crazy place on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should have us out, as we like to say.